Hey everyone, my name's Keelan. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how to write an awesome multi-POV. If you don't know me, my name is Keelan and I make videos about writing and I guess writing, but also like just being a writer and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm doing that with my voice, but anyway. And I am the published author of the newly released All the King's Traitors. It is a young adult epic fantasy adventure, a little bit of dark fantasy too. Dark fantasy, epic fantasy adventure. And it follows the story of 6 main protagonists. So it is a multi-POV. And that is what we are going to be talking about today. I basically got 4 tips for you guys for writing multi-POV. Now, these aren't like go buy or die type tips. You know, everybody has their own method of writing multi-POV, but this is how I go ahead and do it. And you know, I feel like I've done so pretty successfully. Before we get into the 4 tips that I kind of wanted to cover, I do want to say a few things that are kind of general rules about multi-POV. And really there's 2 that I want to touch on. They're interrelated. It's 1, don't head hop. If you're not an expert writer, head hopping and doing it well is extremely difficult to execute. Extremely difficult to execute. For those of you who don't know, head hopping is when you go from one character's point of view to another character's point of view without a scene or chapter break. So there's no clear break that delineates this is character A's point of view and this is character B's point of view. It's different from omniscient because omniscient lets the narrator, it lets the narrator know things that the characters don't. So omniscient, yes, it can kind of get into people's heads, all the different characters' heads, but it also, the narrator can narrate things to the reader that none of the characters know. Whereas head hopping, it's through the POVs. So, you know, there's some examples of books that head hop and have it omniscient because sometimes it's really easy to like, it's head hopping for most of the book and then all of a sudden there's this omniscient fact in there. This gets me back to what I started talking about. I personally believe head hopping is extremely difficult to master, and you know, the books that have it that are great are really fantastic. And I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying, even though I said don't do it before, I'm just saying be wary because it's very hard and it's very easy to get it messed up with the omniscient point of view or third person limited. And if you're doing third person limited and then you head hop over to another character just really quickly, like it does make it difficult for the reader. So that's all I'm going to say on that, because I don't really want to tell you how to do your POVs. I don't want to tell you if you switch at the scene, if you want to switch at the chapter, if you want to do head hopping, because some people want to do head hopping, which is totally okay when executed well. It's great. Again, would recommend if you're more advanced. But now I'm going to get into my tips after my little head hopping rant spiel, and also my camera's moving. This is just great. This is just great. And now I'm looking at myself. We good. So the first tip that I have, and I'm sorry I'm looking at my notebook, I feel like I say that in every video. The first tip that I have about writing multi-point of view is making sure that each character, so each point of view character, whether you have 2 or whether you have 10, each character needs to have 1, their own conflict, and 2, their own goal. So without those pieces, if they're just a supporting character, you may as well just make them a supporting character in your protagonist POV. I mean, they can be a supporting character to your protagonist, but they have to have their own arc. If they're not going to have their own arc, don't give them a POV. That's just silly. It's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your effort, and the POV will be flat, and it'll only be there to complement another arc. So they have to have their own arc. Tip number 2 is make sure that each character that has a POV makes choices. So it's one thing for a character to have a goal, and it's one thing for a character to have a conflict. But if then the rest of their POV is just things happening to them and they're not making any choices on their own, they don't have any agency, again, it's just a whole bunch of things happening to someone. And it might be better suited to do that not as a POV character, because that as a POV character, we want to understand the character, we want to understand why they're making their choices, we want to understand why the goal is their goal. If you make someone a POV and then just have a whole bunch of things happening to them, nobody's going to be invested in them, and they may as well just be a supporting character who's kind of along for the ride on this journey. I mean, personally, all the characters should generally have to make choices, and you don't really want any of your main characters lacking agency. You want them to be able to make choices for their own and drive the story forward versus the story driving them. However, if you're doing a POV character, you really have to be certain that they have a conflict, are making choices to obtain a goal. Tip number 3 that I have for writing multi-POV is, let's say you have a 2-character or 3-character point of view. You can go the whole story showing them all together at all times and then just showing their different perspectives. And that can be interesting, seeing everybody experience the exact same thing, go through the exact same plot. Maybe they're making different choices throughout, but maybe they're always in the same scenes, so they're always in the scene, but the points of view change. And that can be interesting for getting into the character's head, but my personal suggestion would be, if you're gonna write multi-point of view, have your characters separate. It's really interesting to see, as a reader, to see something going on over here and something else going on over here through 2 different points of views, and then maybe they come back together and it doesn't really come into play, but then at the end it does, or in the middle it does, because one character has one piece of information and another character has another piece of information, or has done one action, has done another action, and then it comes together. So that is a really satisfying and interesting thing for a reader to experience. And I just want to shout out Jeremiah, who actually made a video reviewing, plug here, All the King's Traders. I'll link his video below, but he made a comparison kind of to the Marvel MCU universe, and like a comparison of multi-POV to the MCU universe, which was really interesting, and I think it applies to a lot of multi-POV books, is that in all the MCU films, like, everybody had their own little story, and then the exciting thing about MCU is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for those who don't know. And then the exciting things about the Avengers movie is that you got to see all of these characters come together and see how they interact and see how the different choices they made basically influenced this movie. And that's one of the exciting things about multi-point of view, is that you can have things going on separate that all come into play in different ways when the characters finally get together. Anyway, gonna link Jeremiah's video down below. Finally, tip number 4 is, if you write chronologically, at least do one of your editing passes by POV. So what I mean by that is, either sort your novel into each POV. So for example, I had 6 POVs. So I sorted all of my scenes into, well, here's Ion's POV, here's Kuba's POV, here's Valak's POV, here's Rowan's POV, here's Carrie's POV, and here's Aurelia's POV. So I took all the scenes, I rearranged them. That's not true, I just made a new document and then crossed out the scenes that were not theirs and like skipped to their scenes for each of them, because going through and unordering them and reordering them would be way too much work. But then what you do is you edit by arc. So for example, I went through and I read all of Ion's arc to make sure there was nothing missing. And sure, there were some instances where there was plot missing, because let's say he and Kuba were together because they're adopted brothers. Sometimes there'd be a scene that would be Kuba's POV would be the first half, then there'd be a scene break, and then Ion's POV would be the second half. So sure, sometimes there were plot points missing, but you read through it to make sure the entire arc is there. So you read through it to make sure, okay, does this character have conflict? Does this character make choices? Do they have a goal? Is there character development? And then what you can do is you can see it almost in a mini, like, in like a short story / novella, and you can be like, this is Ion's story, this is his story, this is Aurelia's story, this is her beginning, middle, end, this is her conflict, this is the, you know, major event, this is the ending, this is the choice she had to make. So you really get to see each little piece of their story and kind of treat it like its own story. So if you have a book like mine that's like almost 100,000 words, I think it's 95,000, each character, I mean, they vary. Some characters have more, some characters have less in the POV, but each character should have kind of their own story. And so by taking it out of editing chronologically and editing each character, each POV, you end up giving them a more robust and a better story arc, because you can see their story arc independently from everything else. Thanks for joining, really appreciate it, and I really hope that this helped with your any of you out there who want to write multi-POV. It's super exciting, super exciting, and I would highly recommend giving it a shot. And you know, if you do have any questions about writing multi-POV, throw them down in the comments below. Or I would love to hear from you guys whether or not you like multi-POV, because a lot of people out there don't. So would love to hear your opinions on it. Throw that down in the comments below. And if you know, ever want to chat about multi-POVs, I love them. So, you know, just holla at me. If you like this video, and even if you didn't, because I would really just appreciate the like anyway, click that like button, and you know, it helps spread the love. And if you really like this video and you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button down below. And if you do have any interest in purchasing all the King's traders, I'll pop the link down there too. All right, thanks everyone, bye.